where Colin was right?
Well, I've said about Caleb Williams, we're getting too caught up on his completion percentage. Well, what do you know? Most bets to be MVP next season from not just the Joes, but the pros. Not just the squares, but the sharps. What they're telling you is completion percentage matters, but not as much as Caleb Williams' critics are saying. He has a very low interception rate. He didn't throw them in high school, college, or in the pros. He doesn't throw a lot of picks, and he can make so many redeemable plays off script that completion percentage is not the be-all, end-all. I felt this for years on Josh Allen as well.
Okay. I have already engaged in this particular discussion more times than I can count. The fundamental point I want to establish is that it is entirely possible to support Caleb Williams wholeheartedly without being labeled a critic, while simultaneously acknowledging that he needs to improve his accuracy and, by extension, his completion percentage. I have already conducted the deep dive analysis on this topic because people consistently try to deflect with arguments about route running, dropped passes, or various other factors. The reality is that his accuracy is objectively low. His on-target percentage is remarkably low. This is not simply a function of him attempting deep passes downfield. The plain truth is that he needs to become more accurate. What is at stake here is nothing less than the potential to build a Kansas City Chiefs-style dynasty. That is why this conversation matters. That is why it is perfectly acceptable to discuss this topic openly. I genuinely dislike the tendency to downplay these concerns simply because addressing them might paint someone as a critic, a hater, or someone afraid of upsetting passionate fan bases. No, this matters because what hangs in the balance is literal greatness. Genuine, tangible greatness. Accuracy matters fundamentally in this league. People often point to the Josh Allen narrative as an example of overblown criticism. Yet the reality is that if Josh Allen had been more accurate against the Denver Broncos in that playoff game, they would have won. Period. So let us not pretend this is insignificant. What is at stake is becoming the 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 Kansas City Chiefs. That is the ceiling. A high-powered, explosive, dominant offense that strikes fear into every opponent. Consider the playoff games this past season. Caleb Williams made several spectacular plays that generated excitement and highlight reels. However, if he had been more accurate throughout those games, the team would never have found themselves in situations requiring those desperate, heroic moments in the first place. That is the essential point I am trying to convey. The heroics become unnecessary when the fundamental execution is sound throughout the game. I am aware that some individuals use completion percentage as a weapon to argue that Caleb will never develop into a quality NFL quarterback. I reject that perspective entirely because it is nonsense to me. However, pretending that accuracy does not matter or that he does not need to significantly, yes, I said significantly, improve in this area does everyone a disservice. I guarantee you that Caleb himself knows this. Ben Johnson absolutely knows this. Colin Cowherd recently went on an extended rant where he essentially said, "I am only as hard on Caleb as Ben Johnson is." That resonated with me because that is precisely the lens through which I view this situation as well. Hiding behind the argument that he does not throw many interceptions misses the larger point. Yes, avoiding turnovers is valuable, but he was leaving approximately 7 points on the board per game. I am serious about that number. That is how I assess the situation throughout the entire season. From my perspective, the Bears were leaving roughly a touchdown's worth of scoring opportunities on the field every single week. That is massive. That is the difference between competing for division titles and watching the playoffs from home. There were countless big play opportunities that went unrealized. Chris Collinsworth highlighted this repeatedly throughout the season. I believe it was during one of the playoff games. I cannot recall which specific matchup, but he pointed it out. The same observation came up during the regular season as well. When the Bears were generating momentum and appearing on national broadcasts, we heard Tom Brady mention it. Greg Olsen commented on it. Collinsworth continued emphasizing it. Even Aqib Talib, who I know everyone enjoyed when he stepped into the booth, made similar observations. Play after play, the commentary would be something like, if Caleb simply hits that throw, the receiver, whether it is the wideout, the running back, the tight end, is still running to this day. Legend has it, he is still running downfield. Those are the connections that must be made consistently. When you hit those throws consistently, this offense becomes madness. That is the point I keep driving home. When those throws are completed, everything changes. The team can operate within structure so much more effectively. Now, regarding the MVP conversation, Caleb Williams is currently the betting favorite to win MVP next season. That projection is based entirely on the assumption that he will improve significantly in year 2 with Ben Johnson as his head coach. I do not understand Colin's position in this clip. I genuinely do not see what he is claiming to be right about. That logic does not compute for me. How does this lead to, "I told you so"? What exactly are you right about? Let us also address the interception against the Rams that effectively lost the game. I do not blame Caleb Williams for that outcome. I want to be clear about that. He had made a spectacular play earlier in that game that kept them competitive. However, the reason they needed that miraculous play was because he had thrown an inaccurate pass a play or two before that put them in a difficult situation. If you genuinely believe he can produce one of the greatest plays we have ever witnessed on a weekly basis, I do not know what to tell you. That is not sustainable. What happens when some of that magic inevitably runs out? We are witnessing that reality with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and even Patrick Mahomes at times. When the magic fades, their teams struggle. Conversely, what happens when a quarterback can operate effectively within the system and deliver accurate passes consistently? You get to Super Bowls. You win championships. This is what drives me somewhat crazy about portions of this conversation. Colin went on an extended rant praising Sam Darnold for developing into an excellent game manager and emphasizing how crucial that skill set is. And I agree completely. Caleb needs to become a better game manager. If Caleb can transform into an elite game manager while maintaining his natural playmaking ability, then he becomes one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That is genuinely what is at stake here. That is why I resist the urge to downplay this conversation. The Chicago Bears, therefore, have the potential to build something special. They have the potential to construct a dynasty if everything aligns. If not, they follow a different path. This is not a value judgment on any quarterback. I am simply using existing franchises as reference points for what they have accomplished and achieved. You can become the Kansas City Chiefs, or you can become the Baltimore Ravens. You tell me which you prefer. Do you want your quarterback to generate amazing, flashy highlights, incredible moments, and impressive statistical seasons? Or do you want them to win Super Bowls? You decide. Again, I am not blaming Lamar Jackson or suggesting he is not an exceptional talent. I am simply observing that there are two distinct paths in the NFL when you have a great coach, a great quarterback, and the potential to be special. You can become the Kansas City Chiefs or the New England Patriots of recent eras. Alternatively, you can become the Chargers or the Ravens, depending on which era we are discussing. The narrative becomes, "Oh, that was a spectacular throw. That was a spectacular season. They just could not get the job done when it mattered most." More often than not, these big games are won not solely because of the spectacular throws, the incredible plays, or the miraculous scrambles. That is really not the determining factor. We focus on those moments. We magnify them endlessly. But then we forget about the routine checkdowns that move the chains. We forget about the nice little 8-yard pass that turns into a 12-yard gain because the receiver has room to run. We forget about the 3rd and 4 conversion that picks up 10 yards and extends the drive. It is about moving the chains. It is about playing smart, disciplined football. It is about executing high-quality fundamentals consistently. That is literally how the Seattle Seahawks won games throughout the second half of their season. It was not the explosive plays to Jackson Smith-Njigba or DK Metcalf. It really was not. The same dynamic applied to the Philadelphia Eagles last season. The same applied to the Chiefs the year before that. Where were the spectacular plays from Patrick Mahomes in 2023? Can anyone point them out? Where were the spectacular moments in the Super Bowl? I honestly do not remember them. I do not recall them at all. In fact, when he played the Eagles in 2022, I remember him simply hitting wide-open receivers consistently throughout the game. That was the story. Just because a quarterback can occasionally overcome limitations or mistakes through extraordinary effort does not mean those limitations and mistakes do not require intense focus and correction. Make no mistake about this. Josh Allen significantly improved his accuracy. He made dramatic strides in that area. That improvement coincided directly with him becoming the best quarterback in the NFL and the dominant force he is today. He is not the same player if you subtract 5% from his accuracy. He simply is not. It is really that straightforward to me. Those are my personal thoughts on this matter. I would genuinely love to hear your perspectives. What do you all think about the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams? What about his potential to win MVP and consequently transform the Bears into a top-tier NFL contender? That is another crucial aspect of this conversation. If you believe he will win MVP, you are essentially betting on the Bears becoming a top 1 or top 2 contender in the entire league. Make no mistake about that trend. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let us engage in substantive discussions. Let us get into some spirited debates. Ultimately, though, let us prioritize having fun with this. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to have you as part of it. My goal is to create something we all genuinely feel connected to, something we are truly excited to be part of. I believe we are well on our way to accomplishing that. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. That engagement genuinely helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you in the next one.